for being here today. My name is Akila Reese, and I am the chair with the International Awareness and Involvement Committee with the Pontiac Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And thank you for joining us again for this very special and important event on talking about human trafficking and exposing the dark reality of it. So without further ado, I will go over very quickly the agenda and then we'll just get started with the presentation. We'll first have our greetings from our president, Jacqueline A. McClinton, and then we'll have our guest speakers start with the presentation and talking about sensitive content warning and then community norms, aggrievement, and touchstones. Then we'll have an overview of human trafficking, recognizing the signs of trafficking, what to do tips if you're ever encountered with maybe a human trafficking incident, scenarios, testimonial, and then we'll close out the presentation with trauma-informed approaches. Now I will pass it over to our wonderful president, Jacqueline A. McClinton, for greetings.
Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize that my camera is not on, but listen, technology works until it doesn't. I just want to say thank you, and welcome. Thank you for joining and welcome to our May Week 2025 event. This event is called Behind the Curtain, Exposing the Dark Reality of Human Trafficking. We had a human trafficking event, a virtual event earlier, and everyone was asking for an encore. So we hope you enjoyed this one as much as you did the last one if you attended. And if this is your first one, we really hope that you will find this event impactful. As a sisterhood committed to social action, advocacy, and the protection of the vulnerable communities, we recognize that silence is not an option. So today we're going to pull back the curtain to shed light on the hidden, heartbreaking crisis of human trafficking and stand in solidarity with survivors and allies working towards justice. Again, thank you so much for attending, and we hope that you find this event impactful. I will turn it back over to our wonderful chair of International Awareness and Involvement, Akila Reese. But before I do, I just want to say thank you to Akila Reese, her co-chair, Joanne Burks, and the entire committee for this great event. Akila Reese, back to you.
Thank you. And before we move over to the next session, I would like to introduce our first guest speaker, and her name is Barbara L. Jones. Barbara L. Jones is a Detroit native and visionary educator and restorative justice leader at Wayne State University, where she serves in the Office of Sexual Violence and Prevention Education. With nearly 20 years at Wayne State, she has championed trauma-informed, equity-driven strategies that transform how communities prevent and respond to gender-based harm. Barbara is known for her deep commitment to healing-centered engagement, peer education, and suitable cultural change. She has served in influential roles at WDET, Detroit Public Radio, and the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies, where she was a former faculty member teaching social justice, activism, and dispute resolution as and has coached students from classrooms to community circles in conflict resolution and restorative practices. Barbara is the mom of Charmaine L. Jones and Conte E. Smith, and a proud grandmother of three, and holds a BS in Mass Communications from Rochester College, an MA in Dispute Resolution, and graduate credentials from in International Peace and Security Studies from Wayne State University, and Restorative Justice Leadership from the University of San Diego. She leads with courage, love, and legacy, honoring through honoring her son through the Conte Emmanuel Smith Endowed Scholarship, lifting future leaders of peace, justice, and resilience at Wayne State University, supporting her students with the vision, courage to lead with peace, justice, and resilience. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Barbara L. Jones.
Thank you, Akila. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that warm introduction. I want to thank Madam President, Akila, the chairs, the co-chairs, everyone involved in this very important topic and discussion. as it relates to human trafficking. Thank you, Delta, to the Deltas. So, as I begin, I'm going to also introduce our co presenter, but I want to make sure that I give all of you a sensitive content advisory, a trigger warning, as we begin our discussion and our conversation today related to human trafficking. And today's session includes discussion of human trafficking and all of the elements tied along with it, including real stories and potentially distressing experiences. And some material that we discuss today may evoke strong emotional responses. So please, please, please care for yourself in whatever way that feels right to you. Participation with all of us is voluntary. You are welcome to step away at any time during our conversation today and rejoin when you feel ready. Just know that support is available and that we're going to share the resources more than likely at the conclusion of this session. One of the things that's really, really important is cultivating a respectful space. We ask that everyone approach today's topic with empathy, confidentiality, although we know that this is being recorded, and also non-judgment. That is very, very important. So I wanted to make sure that I talked about all of the trigger warnings. Thank you. Next slide. We're also going to talk about community norms and touchstone agreements on how we really want to operate in this space. And what we're asking is that you be 100% present, extending and presuming welcome. We all learn most effectively in spaces that welcome us. And we are welcoming others to this space. So presume that you are welcome. The next is listen deeply, listen actively, listen intently to what is said, listen to the feelings beneath the words. Also, listen to yourself. That's very, very important. It's important that we strive to achieve a balance between listening, reflecting, speaking, and acting. And in our discussion today and in our activities, it's always by invitation. So you're going to be invited to share in small pairs and within the large group as well. The invitation is exactly what it is. So you determine to the extent in which you want to participate, actively participate in our discussion and activities. The next agreement is no fixing. Each one of us are here to discover our own truths, to learn, to listen to our inner voice, to listen to our inner teacher, and to take our own journey in this conversation. So we're not here to set anyone straight or fix anyone, or to help right another person's wrong or correct anybody. We want to make sure that what we may perceive is as broken is incorrect. So we want to make sure that we hold that space as it relates to no fixing. Suspend judgment. That was a part of the trigger warning and the sensitive content advisory as well. So set aside your judgments. We are here to create a space that involves safety, but we also can't guarantee safety. We're all coming and showing up in this in a brave space. So when we suspend judgments and reactions, we can also listen to each other more actively, and also to ourselves more fully. Thus, our perspectives, our decisions, and our actions are more informed when we listen to each other. We definitely want to maintain confidentiality. By creating this space, we want to make sure that we respect the confidentiality of this discussion and the content of this discussion. So, really, what we talk about here kind of stays within this space. The next agreement is, I think that's it. That's it. Now, I am going to introduce my co-presenter, Tish Patterson, who is a human trafficking specialist at Avalon Healing Center, who is going to talk about and give a brief overview of human trafficking. Tish?
Good afternoon, everybody. Shout out to Delta Sigma Theta. Shout out to Barbara, all you wonderful people that helped put this together. Um, Shout out to, I'm sorry, I do my shout outs. Shout out to the Open Gateway, which I am a member of the Survival Council. I just wanted to say hello. Um, we're going to be talking about the overview of human trafficking. Human trafficking is a crime involving exploitation of people through force, fraud, or coercion. It is considered a modern form of slavery. Victims are trafficked for purposes such as forced labor, sexual exploitation, and organ removal. Traffickers often target vulnerable populations, including those in poverty and other vulnerable populations. It affects men, women, and children all across the world. Human trafficking is a highly profitable global industry, generating billions of dollars annually. It often involves organized criminal networks, but can also occur on a smaller scale. Victims may be transported across borders or trafficked within their own counties. Trafficking can happen in plain sight, such as in businesses, homes, or factories. Awareness, prevention, legal enforcement, and victim support are key to combating human trafficking. So we have sex trafficking. Sex trafficking involves coercion or deceiving individuals into engaging in sex acts against their will. Victims may be controlled through threats, drugs, or debt. It affects primarily women and girls, but also boys and the LGBTQIA individuals. There's labor trafficking, exploits individuals for forced labor in industries like agriculture, construction, domestic work, and manufacturing. Victims also often work long hours under inhumane conditions with little or no pay. Common in regions with informal and unregulated labor sectors. And domestic servitude. It's a type of labor trafficking where individuals, often migrants, work in private homes under abusive conditions. Victims are isolated, overworked, and denied freedom of movement. There's child trafficking. It involves the exploitation of minors for various purposes, including forced labor, sexual exploitation, child soldiers, forced begging, and illegal adoption. We have organ trafficking. Victims are forced or deceived into giving up organs, or organs are taken without their consent, often connected to underground medical markets and corruption. And we have forced marriage. Individuals, often girls, are married against their will and are subject to control and abuse, can be driven by economic gain or cultural practices. Recognizing the signs of trafficking, general behavior signs, physical signs, work, living conditions, social and communication clues, and situational clues.
Thank you, Tish. So let's talk about, and I want to make sure that I'm moving a little slow. I had surgery on my left hand, so I'm like a one-arm bandit right now, trying to control two laptops and monitors as well. So I thank you for your grace. Now, let's just take a moment and do some deep breathing exercises. I know we've covered a lot of those definitions and the overview of human trafficking, exploring so many complexities, the warning signs, the systemic issues that fuel this global crisis. It's everywhere and it's very, very pervasive. This is a heavy conversation. It's a heavy topic, and I appreciate your engagement as we process all of these definitions and what it means and what it looks like. This is a part of our learning and our learning together. So I appreciate all of you. So let's take just a few minutes to do some deep breathing exercises. We're going to do some belly breathing. I'm going to ask that if you all want to close your eyes, if you want to turn your cameras off just for a minute. I can't see you all based off of who all is in the Zoom room, so I'm not able to see. But let's do some belly breathing. This is really breathing from the diaphragm in your belly. And what this type of breathing does, it really helps calm the nervous system and it brings us to our center in the midst of really talking about and covering this heavy topic. So I'm going to ask you all to begin by placing your one hand on your chest and the other hand on your belly and in your stomach area or on your stomach area. And I want you to inhale deeply. Inhale through your nose, intentionally, deeply, allowing your belly to just fill up with air. And I need for you all to exhale slowly through your mouth by letting your belly fall. One deep breath. Let's do this again. So you're going to inhale deeply through your nose, expanding your belly. We're going to just hold it for a few seconds and we're going to exhale that breath slowly with your hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, letting your belly fall. One more time. Inhale deeply through your nose, hold it, and exhale slowly by letting your belly fall. And now we're going to come back. So next, what I'm going to discuss for just a few minutes is if any of you recognize or suspect human trafficking in real time, here are some clear and helpful and purposeful tips. Do not intervene directly. Avoid confrontation because it could put you and the survivor or the slash victim at risk. Observe discrete details. Do it discreetly. Note descriptions of folks. Also, note descriptions of vehicles that you observe. Pay attention to locations and behaviors. That's very important. If you have an opportunity to document what you see through a smartphone, or if you carry a piece of paper, a receipt, or an ink pen in your bag, notate what you see. Record the day, the date, the time, and specific observations that you see without making any type of assumptions. You can also report the incident uh, of suspected human trafficking by calling 911 and inform first responders if you suspect human trafficking. The next thing is trust your instincts, trust your gut. If something feels off, if something feels that it's just not right, um, especially in your observation, it is worth reporting. Another thing that I would encourage all of you to do, take additional training if you're really interested in doing this type of work. I would encourage all of you to take some bystander intervention training. And know your resources, know your local resources, know your state resources, know your national resources as well. Familiarize yourself with community-based organizations that support survivors and or victims of human trafficking. So those are some of the tips that we want to share with you. Now, at this time, I want to hand it over to Akila, and she's going to guide us in some activities that we are going to uh, participate in.
Yes.
Akila? Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to do some scenarios. Barbara, did you want to go over this slide first before we jump into scenarios or afterwards?
We can go directly into this scenario because
Okay.
we're going to do this one in the larger group.
Okay.
Tish and Tish is going to lead this just so we can familiarize everyone in our space today of this particular scenario of human trafficking. And then I'll let you guide us on the next scenarios as far as breakout groups.
Okay, perfect. So we can go ahead and do that one, and then after we do that one, then we'll go into the smaller ones then. All right.
Okay, thank you. I am going to let Tish lead this type of scenario, and based off of what Tish described as the elements and the overview of human trafficking, Tish is going to lead us in the romance and coercion scenario. What would you do if you encountered this? Tish?
So with the romance and coercion scenario, the trafficker usually poses as a boyfriend or a girlfriend, showers the victim with attention and affection. It doesn't usually start off with manipulation and intimidation and pressure and threats. It doesn't usually start that way because they have to gain some type of trust in order for the victim, I'm going to say survivor, in order for the survivor to become familiar with this person and let all of their guards down. Um, so they usually start by the trafficker starts by befriending this particular survivor with attention and then uses emotional manipulation or threats to force them into labor or sex work. So if we were to come across this type of scenario, um, basically paying attention to the signs. Is this particular person in debt? Is this particular person, do they have a drug dependency of some sort? The trafficker will use that as a way of manipulation and gaining trust within the relationship and total dependency on them. Is there a so I would like to think of it as the hierarchy of needs. So is the basic needs being met? Does this person have somewhere to live? You don't approach the person, the trafficker directly. You don't. But you kind of scan for the signs. What are they being? Do you see bruises? Do they seem tired, overworked, things like that.
Thank you, Tish. So we're going to open it um, up for discussion via chat, or you can come off of mute. And the question is for discussion, the romance and coercion scenario. What do you all think that falls under? Does it fall under sex trafficking, labor trafficking, domestic servitude, child trafficking, um, organ trafficking, or forced marriage? Based off of what we've discussed so far and how Tish also laid out this scenario.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cheryl Crockett. I'm not a Delta. It could potentially be a platform for any of them, because if you don't know what the end game is, but if whatever it is, initially you have to gain their trust. You have to, make them comfortable enough to, share those innermost thoughts with you so you can determine if whatever your end game is going to be successful on this individual. So I think it could be a platform for any of them.
Thank you for your contribution. There's also someone in the chat, Felicia, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you again, Cheryl. That states it could be all of the above that we talked about as it relates to the entire overview as well. Any other thoughts or contributions to this scenario?
I was going to chime in really quick. It absolutely could be all of the above because the grooming process can happen at a young age, moving into child labor, moving into labor as far as working or sex trafficking. A lot of the times there are a lot of stigmas about sex trafficking and human trafficking that it has to be somebody that you don't know, when in most scenarios, it's usually a person that the victim or survivor does know, like a boyfriend. So it absolutely can be all of the above.
Thank you, Tish. Um, this is not a quiz. This is a discussion as well. And uh, not only do I agree with what everyone else has contributed in this discussion, all of it intersects, all of it connects. It's not just one thing. And when you're prey and when you're vulnerable, all of the things that Tish described that covered all of them, they all come to play. So thank you for your participation. Now, at this time, we're going to do a few more scenarios, and Akila is going to put us in breakout rooms to where we will have this discussion in the smaller groups. What we're going to ask that uh, you all do as far as participating in this discussion, Akila, myself, and Tish will serve as facilitators. But once you get into your breakout room, please designate a note taker and please designate someone who is going to report out the discussion when we all come back to the main room. for the conversation based off of the scenarios as well. And I can't see you all. Akila, do you have anything else to add, or as far as uh, directions and how we're going to
Yeah,
partake
no,
in our breakout rooms?
yep, that was great. Thank you for that. So I'm going to read each of the scenarios and whatever breakout room. So just pay attention to the numbers. And also, I will put it in the chat too. So the scenario corresponds with the breakout room. So if you get put in breakout room one, then you'll be working on scenario one, and it will go from there. So I will go over very quickly each of the scenarios, what you'll be talking about in your groups. And as Barbara said, you'll have a note taker and then also someone who will report out once you have talked in great length and detail of what to do in each scenario, and someone will report back to the main group. All right. So for our first scenario, it states that during a business trip, you check into a motel and you notice a young woman frequently escorted in and out of a nearby room by different men throughout the evening. She avoids eye contact, appears malnourished, and looks fearful. The man accompanying her seems controlling and hostile. What do you do? So that is scenario one. Scenario two. At your local restaurant, you notice a dishwasher who never speaks, works excessive hours, and seems unusually fearful of the manager. A coworker mentioned he lives at the restaurant and never leaves. What do you do? Scenario three. You visit a friend in a wealthy neighborhood and meet a young woman from another country who cooks and cleans. She avoids conversation, doesn't know her address, and your friend refers to her as the maid who owes us for bringing her here. What do you do? The last scenario, scenario four, is you're volunteering with a youth center and you overhear a 14-year-old talking about a new online friend who is sending them gifts and talking about meeting in person. The team seems very secretive about it. What do you do? So I'm going to stop sharing real quick. And then we're going to go ahead and start putting folks in breakout rooms. And as I mentioned, I will put the questions in the chat so you all can refer back to them. And so you all can just work together in the breakout rooms on what would you do in each one. So just give us a few seconds to assign folks to breakout rooms really quickly.
And while Akila is doing that, if you all want to just step away, stand up, stretch, go get some water, now would be a good time.
And I think folks should be in the breakout rooms. I think. Yes, so folks are joining. We do have 5 breakout rooms, so I only went over 4, so I'll put the 5th one in the chat. So let me just do that real quick.
Here, I'll move the people in the 5 into one of the other rooms.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you. Let me pull up. All of those should be in the chat, so folks should be able to see them. Thank you, Patrice.
You're welcome.
All right. So we all can take one room if you wanted to, and I was just gonna hop between because I know we have like one, so I can hop between whatever rooms that you all don't decide to join between the other 2 rooms.
Hello, I got kicked out of my room. I don't know what
Oh no.
happened.
Let's see.
I'll put you back shortly. Oh, please.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And Cheryl,
Akila.
Cheryl Crockett, I don't know which room I'm in either. Okay, hold on. I got it.
Oh, you found it. Okay.
And Akila, can you just whisk me away to a room?
Yes, yes. I'll put you
Okay.
in one.
Thank
Me
you.
too.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Barbara, I'll put you in one, and then Tish, I'll put you in 2.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're
See you
welcome.
soon.
All right.
Hey, Akila, this is Rhonda.
Hey.
Hey, Jackie and myself are in a seminar and probably won't
Oh,
be able to
okay.
get to a breakout room.
Okay, no problem. If you
Okay.
can't join the breakout room, no problem. We understand. So
Okay, thank
because we
you.
will be, yeah, no problem. We will be coming back so you can just listen in on what the folks discussed about in their rooms.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's put what the scenarios are inside of the breakout room broadcast.
Let's see. Broadcast. Okay. Thank you. Broadcast message. Oh, wait. Oh, it's for the broadcast message. You're only able to put a certain amount of characters or words.
That is possible. Let me see.
Okay. Because it keeps cutting it off.
Let's try to do, let's do room one and put, you do one and two and I'll do three and four and just try to go into that room and broadcast the
Oh,
message.
oh, okay. So go in, join the room and put it like in their chat. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? Okay. All right. So you say you'll do one and two and I'll do three and four?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you. I'll do that now.
Agree as well. I think I think being very mindful of the scenario of like the scene, like how many men or like you said, what she was wearing, if there were any
Okay, Sheriff Caleb, I didn't check the time and I saw you were in the room 5, so I moved you back to the main. Tell me, you're on mute. What time do you want to stop the breakout session?
Good question. Let's give about, I would say about 7-ish more minutes.
All right, so I'll tell them that we'll be wrapping up in uh,
We could do 5. That would make it easier.
okay, they'll give us 150. Okay.
Yep.
I'll send you.
Thank you. Okay. Then let me go back. I'm gonna go back to room 3 and then 4 and just check on them. I'll be right back.
I need to just get you back because I'm going to bring all the people back and I need you to get your presentation. I don't know what you're
Oh,
pivoting to, so you need to be, yeah.
okay.
All right, Kate. I'm going to call them all back, close out all the rooms now.
All
Are
right,
you ready? You
sounds
got your
good. Thank
paper?
you.
Okay. I got 60 seconds.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. All right, it looks like folks are making their way back in. Thank you all. I hope you all had great conversation in your breakout rooms. So now let me go back to the scenarios. So we can start with breakout session one or scenario one. If someone would like to share out with this scenario, what would you do in this situation? What did you all talk about in your room one?
Hi, my name is Tania Tukils. I'm not a Delta. I'm just participating as a guest. Um, assessing, me and the group came up with a couple of things that we would do in that type of scenario. We would assess our own safety and well-being when observing what is taking place, making sure that, we're able to do so safely as well, not allow our own traumas or triggers to prevent us from being able to safely be descriptive and accessing the scenario around us. We also decided that we would call 911 or basically contact contact the front desk and have them call 911 while we possibly text the hotline resource. We also said that we would possibly video, if we are able to record safely to be very descriptive of what's taking place, making sure that if we could see the victim, if he or she have any sort of, signs of abuse, that we're able to be very descriptive when we are, notifying those that could possibly help the front desk, the 911 or first responders. Those are some of the things that we came up with when we discussed that scenario one.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. And I know, Barbara, you were in that room. Anything you would like to add? It seems like it was a really good conversation, though.
I really was engaged in the conversation. The only thing that we did consider is that there is a specific trial ongoing now that is touching on all of this. I don't want to go into any details,
Mhm.
and I don't want to assume that we all know what trial that I'm referring to, but that was brought
Mhm.
up to where we the group talked about it as
Perfect.
well.
All right,
Thank
perfect.
you.
All right, so then we have scenario two. Um, Anyone want to discuss what they discussed in their room for scenario two?
Okay, we discussed one, the safety measures that began in the very beginning. Um, Two would be the observation and how would we determine that this person was being kept overnight? How would we determine that information? The third one was contact local police because many police have task force and they know protocols or Polaris and to put information about human trafficking up in the restrooms. Like, you know, for domestic violence, they have, if you are in domestic violence, you know, pull that little pull tab. That would be another aspect. We had some good information. And another one we learned in Royal Oak at a particular bar or near Royal Oak, they have a drink that you order, and that's telling the bartender, I need help, or dial 911 immediately. So one is the biggest one is safety. That's paramount. And number two is to bring in, you know, law enforcement. And it seems if you are regular at that restaurant, you're going to begin to notice something. But like I said, my question is, how will we know he's staying there overnight? How will we obtain that information?
Perfect. Thank you, Felicia. I know Tish was in that room. Anything you wanted to add, Tish?
Yes, we had a very good conversation. Um, One of the things that we talked about is while assessing the situation, just making sure that we know we're not going to make any assumptions. Basically, we can get the Better Business Bureau involved so they can do their own investigation on the restaurant themselves instead of us just coming up with what we assume is happening and get the authorities involved. If you get the Better Business Bureau involved first, that pulls more attention on the business itself than the victim, and they're less likely to be punished or harmed because the business is being investigated and not the person in their situation, and could encourage them to ask for help.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a really good one. Yeah. Like you said, focusing on the business and not the person. So yes. Perfect. Thank you so much, group two. All right. So moving to scenario three. Anyone like to discuss what they talked about in room three? Yeah, you're still a little low. I can hear you like very faintly. Okay, she says she passed to one of her other group members. If someone else wants to speak in the group.
Well, I'm driving, but I'll try and speak really quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I can speak. This is
Oh,
Jolene King. I
Okay.
was trying to get the video to work, but I can speak.
okay.
My name is Jolene King, and I am not a Delta. I'm a volunteer. If it's a little bit loud, it's because I'm at my son's math pentathlon tournament, so I'm trying to multitask. And so with the scenario number three, we came up with just reporting anonymously to the police or adult services, like really just staying clear of the person and just observing what's going on and then reporting it to adult service anonymously or the police anonymously.
Perfect. Thank you. And I know I wasn't able to, I was hopping between two rooms, so I stayed in your all room a little bit. But yes, so if you want to call maybe the human trafficking hotline, you do that, but also reporting to the least, and maybe even just do a welfare check on the person. So you can say I've observed a little something. It kind of seemed, maybe something might be going a little off, and maybe the police or someone else can check it out. So yes, perfect. Thank you for scenario three. And then last but not least, for room four and scenario four.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So our group came up with some very good options, and we would have undoubtedly come up with more good options had we had a little bit more time. But the options that we came up with initially were to try to engage the individual to get more information to see if this was something that we could get more information on before we alerted anyone of higher authority or someone on location there. The other option was to advise the parent of what they overheard during the conversation. And the last alternative was last option was to notify a parent. I'm sorry, was to notify the authorities.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, I know I hopped in a little bit with you all too and listened. And so, yes, I know someone had mentioned in the group too, if you have a good rapport with that students, to try to just start asking some questions, non-judgmental questions, just trying to filling out the situation to see if it's something that you need to elevate higher. And then possibly if it's not, if maybe this is just like a one-time volunteer opportunity and you might not know the student, maybe, like you said, talking to staff who may have a better rapport with the student, or if you know their parent, to bring that up. Just because I know we have mentioned that it's, better to say something than not say something because you never know in these situations. So thank you all so much. I hope those tips were kind of helpful. And I know I mentioned in one of the groups for myself, sometimes in situations, things may seem a little off, but you never know when you should say something, or, if you're kind of doing too much and you should just leave things alone. So I think in these situations, it kind of helps us to think about that sometimes it's better to just say something, even if we don't fully know, just if it can help someone in the situation that they're in. So thank you all so much. All right. So now I will hand it over to Tish Patterson for her testimonial.
Before Tish goes into her testimonial, I want to reintroduce Tish.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I want to reintroduce Tashura. Tish, as she is affectionately known, Patterson. Um, Tish is a powerful voice for healing, awareness, and resilience. Tish is a survivor of human trafficking and domestic violence. And Tish is also in long term recovery, and she proudly celebrates 2.5 years of sobriety. That deserves a hand clap right there, a Zoom hand clap. Tish is the mother of two beautiful children and a dedicated student at Wayne County Community College District, where she's completing her Associates of Arts degree before transferring to Wayne State University, go Wayne State, go Warriors, to pursue her bachelor's in social work. And even further than that, with aspirations to go even further in her education. Tish recently joined Avalon Healing Center as a human trafficking specialist, and she serves as a council member for the Michigan Survivors Council through Open Gateway, that is an organization. Tish is a passionate advocate and a speaker, and she shares her lived experiences across the city of Detroit and beyond, raising critical awareness about digital harm, online safety, the realities of addiction. Tish is driven by a deep commitment to help others heal and to shed light on so much of society's hidden injustices, especially as it relates to human trafficking. So that is Tish's reintroduction to this group. Tish, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, for that introduction. I greatly appreciate it. Um, I'm just gonna apologize or not really apologize because I might refer to God and His amazing grace every now and again. Um, so listen, I don't want to offend anybody, but hey, the God of my understanding has been good to me. I am greatly appreciative of this opportunity, but this isn't really about me. This is about making sure that we are bridging some gaps between lack of knowledge on human trafficking, not just human trafficking, but some of the things that we think what it is and what it isn't, some false information. And also just to prevent this from happening to your children, my children, the generation to come, but also and also to survivors around the world, whomever this may reach, that you can come out. There is a way out, um, and there is some hope. So, with that being said, I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and to God be the glory. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, where I lived there with my mother and my sister. Pretty decent childhood. I was exposed to some violence. I was exposed to a lot of substance abuse. Um, my mom was a single mother, so being a single mother is very challenging especially when you have a lack of support. So she struggled a little bit. She struggled a lot with depression, and there were times that I would try and um, I don't know, make her feel good, make her feel better, or see what it is that I could do to help her as a child. And so that started me on the path of people pleasing. Um, Growing up, she tried to make it as normal as possible with what she was dealt. I didn't have a horribly terrible childhood. When I started growing up into my teenage years, that's when I was exposed to drugs. I started dating a guy that was in a gang, and he was murdered. And after his murder, his cousin introduced himself to me, and he was saying, you are a member of this particular gang. And I knew about the gang, but I never knew that I was, a part of it or anything. And he mentioned that I was the property of this gang. So we lived in this neighborhood, and when I was growing up, I was able to catch the bus everywhere. I walked everywhere. That's just how I grew up. Stayed outside when I wasn't at school, when my mother was at work, and I got to hang out with the neighborhood kids and exposed. Particular gang was throwing the party. It was a lot of drugs there. It was a lot of alcohol there. That was the first time I had been, um, what's the word I'm looking for? That I guess I was curious about crack cocaine. I was curious about marijuana, and I had tried alcohol before, but I was about 15 and I was drinking. Um, they asked me if I wanted to try, pills, and I did, and I kind of passed out. When I woke up, it was a gang, it was a room of young men in this room, and they were taking turns raping me. And that was my initiation into this gang. Um, Things like having to hide pistols at my mother's house, she wouldn't even know. She drank a lot, so I would hide guns in her house based off of being afraid of what they would say or do to me. They knew where my mother lived, they knew my grandmother, and I would often get threatened. Um, Excuse me, I'm sorry. My apologies. So it was a lot of threats going on, and I believed them because I had been shot at. Um, I would get raped often against my will. Um, I remember having to tell my mom that I wasn't feeling good vaginally. I'm just gonna be transparent. Something was wrong, and she would ask me, questions or whatever, but I would be put on punishment for for being sexually active, but this was something that I didn't agree to, and I didn't know how to tell her that. Um, so I made plans to go to Planned Parenthood, and I got some really horrifying information about being exposed to STIs, and um, some of them would use condoms and some didn't. So one particular time I went to the doctor and there was, a piece of a condom inside of me, and the doctor was alerted at that time, like something is going on. This is the second time I've seen you and you haven't had anybody with you and all of these kinds of things. But it went on for about 2 years. I did graduate high school. All of this happened in the neighborhood. I never told anybody. Um, then I got off into dancing. I was convinced or coerced into the lifestyle. Like they make good money, and it will help your mom, and it will help your sister, and all these things, these promises that were made to me. And I danced for about 2 years, maybe 3 years, up until I was about 20. And this guy, he was supposed to be my boyfriend, but he was very abusive, um, very disrespectful. He raped me in front of his son once. Anytime I would say something that was didn't agree with what he wanted, he would do things like smack me, throw water in my face, and this would be around other members of this gang. The straw was I got robbed because I was attempting to be a drug dealer at the time. After that happened, I got robbed. Then I got shot, all because I was affiliated with this gang. And by this time, my mom had relocated to Ohio and she heard about me being shot. And she asked me if I wanted to come be with her. So after that, uh, I was like, no, I'm not moving to Ohio. I'd rather tough it out here in St. Louis. But eventually she moved to Detroit. And that was my way out. Uh, I came to Michigan. I was here 2 weeks. I got a job, was meeting people. She lived in Bloomfield Hills. I was out in Bloomfield Hills. I had a job there. I was hanging out with some coworkers. We went to this bar called Samurai in Farmington Hills, and I got really drunk that night. Um, so drunk that when I woke up, because I passed out, when I woke up, I was in this man's grandmother's basement, um, and he was having sex with me when I came to. I kind of just played it off. I had never met this man a day in my life. I kind of played it off. I'm like, okay, this is happening again. And I kind of played it off so I can get home. And I knew my mother would be disappointed because I didn't come home. About a month went by and I was pregnant. I kept my baby. She'll be 13 next week, not next week, next month. And I've been co-parenting with her father for the last 14 years. It's been rough, but needless to say, you know, if we don't make enough noise about the things that happen to us, it can be swept under the rug. A lot of shame and guilt come into play. And that's why I'm so vocal now after I've been going through this healing process. But after having my daughter, and I'm going to fast forward, after having my daughter, there was a lot of things that I stuffed down, using alcohol, using cocaine. There's a lot of things that I hid. My mother, to this day, she knows that I'm involved in human trafficking advocacy work, but she doesn't know the extent of what happened. And a lot of that, I don't talk about it with her to protect her because I don't care what anybody says. She's a good mom. She did the best that she could with what she had. And it's not her fault. So um, I'm just now starting to be able to talk about these situations now, being in recovery. It took a minute for me to admit that I needed help because, my mom was the only person here in Michigan that I had. I didn't know where to receive my help from. Um, I eventually had a son through a domestic violence relationship. Um, and I learned a lot. I worked for Chrysler for a little bit, um, but I left Chrysler after COVID, or once we were getting out of COVID, in like 2022. I had caught a charge, OWI. I hit somebody on the freeway, and that accident actually saved my life because I was arrested. I was put on probation. I had a problem, a substance abuse problem. And I went to treatment in 2022. The first time I relapsed, all trying to attempt to be a mother. And, my daughter had been a victim of child abuse. It was a lot. Um, So I used drugs. I used drugs and alcohol and still tried to have some type of manageability in my life. And then after the first treatment center, I went to treatment again. And then I caught COVID in treatment, had to beg my mother to come let me stay with her until I got, we have to quarantine when you have COVID. After quarantine with that, I went to another treatment center. Shout out to the Salvation Army. I was there for 7 months. I had to call my daughter's father and ask him to get his daughter. I had to call my son's father. I need you to get your son so I could help myself. And that place changed my life. Uh, that was in 2022. I completed that program in 2023. Um, that program, I had a spiritual counselor, and that's when I found out that I had been trafficked. I didn't, I never got help for it. I attempted to let the police know, but because of who I was involved with, they were like, you signed up for this. But at the Salvation Army is where I had to find out what I was really healing from. And through my counselor and having numerous conversations and writing in all these journals, that's when she's like, have you ever heard of human trafficking? And I was like, no, I have no clue. What? And I argued with her actually because by this time I had surrendered to using drugs, and I was like, I'm done being a victim. I'm done with identifying as a victim. I don't want to be a victim anymore. And she's telling me, well, this is, I had filled out this questionnaire, and she was like, yeah, this happened to you. I went a little bit more in depth. I'm saving some of that information. It's some stuff I'm not really quite ready to go into detail by detail, but I shared a lot with her, and that's when she told me that that's what that was. So I didn't have anywhere to go after the Salvation Army. There was this program that was opening up in Detroit called Haven Homes of Detroit. And that's when I met Alice J. And I was the first woman to become part of the Haven Homes of Detroit human trafficking program for women, for survivors that have been trafficked. I was the first woman in that program, and it just changed my life. Um, I don't know how much time I have, but I've been clean since October 17th, 2022. Uh, this year I'll have 3 years. I just got hired at Avalon Healing Center as a human trafficking specialist. My life has changed tremendously, and I'm just so grateful. I'm very active in my children's life. Uh, they got their mother. I'm not gonna say back because this new person and I'm still trying to figure out who she is after, all of that stuff because it takes a long time to heal from things that you have just pushed and stuffed down. And to be in this position, I know so many beautiful people. God has just afforded me an opportunity to have this community of people that love me now, um, that protect me now, and I'm able to trust them. And it's just been amazing. This journey has been amazing. I know my story is one of many, but I know God designed me for such a time as this, and I have a responsibility to not just me or my children, but to other survivors, to um, these underserved communities that that I'm a part of, being a Black woman, a single mother, a survivor of human trafficking, a survivor of domestic violence, a survivor of gun violence. It's so many different things though that play an intricate part in this huge topic. So it's human trafficking, but you know, body image play a part in it. Self-esteem plays a part in it. Um, Adverse childhood experiences play a part in it, and you know, economics play a part in it. It's just so many different webs and little bits and pieces. Barbara and I were talking about this, and you know, it can just go in depth about how did we get here? So if my story can just play a role in how we can come out of it, then we got work to do. So I know this isn't for me. I'm merely doing what I was called to do. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this, but I know God, he plucked me out for a reason. So, and I know that reason is not to only give him the glory, because if it wasn't, I'm gonna try not to cry. If it was not for him and all the details of my life, I remember waking up on a Highway 75 and I had passed out behind the wheel and there was no one around. And I came out unscathed. The fact that I was in that car accident and I didn't kill that man, or I'm not doing years behind jail, or my children are still alive. The fact that I survived what I did at 15 and 16 years old, whew, it's just so many intricate details, like where his hand has been in my life. So, I don't care who has to hear this story. I don't care who I have to tell. I don't care how many times I have to tell it because lives are at stake. And, I come from a family that everything that goes on in this house stays in this house. And I refuse to be a part of that anymore. I refuse to be silenced. And yeah, so I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And life is good. Life is good. God is good. My children are okay. My son he has the flu, so he's peeking up and down the steps every now and again. And I'm trying not to, you know, go too in depth, but I'm very vocal with my children about online safety and digital harm. I have these open conversations with them about substance abuse, and I think we save lives when we're transparent. And that's why I don't carry any shame or guilt anymore. You know, that's like carrying luggage around in the airport. So if you have a story, tell it. Tell it. Thank you all. That's all I got.
Tish, thank you. Um, we appreciate your transformational story. Across Wayne State and community. Reconciliation Commission of Canada. And the quote is, by listening to your story, my story can change. By listening to your story, I can change. So I want to thank you for sharing your life, your heart, your work in such a giving manner. I just kind of got to regroup for a second because I'm impacted uh, by your purpose and your story. And it's an honor to co-present alongside you. And thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tish, for that. Um, so I know just the last slide that we have here before the resources, we were just talking about um, trauma-informed approaches and what to do, kind of like if you're working with someone who was impacted by human trafficking. So making sure that they're ensuring safety and that the survivor feels emotionally and physically safe, and making sure allowing them to tell their story. So not pushing them to tell them anything that you wouldn't want, pushing them to tell anything that they wouldn't want to, being consistent and trustworthy and having respect for that person, you not being judgmental, really listening to the story and making sure that they're building that trust and that rapport. Also, empowerment. So support survivors in making their own choices and rebuilding control. Collaboration. So involve survivors with decisions affecting them and avoid opposing authority. And then also cultural sensitivity, respect cultural, religious, and personal identities. I didn't know, Barbara, if you wanted to touch more on that too.
Yes. A couple of things I want to underscore what you said, Akila. Um, when we practice safety, the purpose is to continuously try to reduce the fear and the anxiety that may be triggered by unfamiliar or controlling environments. And I also want to underscore that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So this time that we're spending together is so timely. And the reason why it matters, going back to safety, is that many survivors, and I'm so glad that Tish really underscored the difference between the language of victim and survivor. Is so important. Many survivors have experienced extreme violations of safety. So feeling safe is foundational to healing and it's often the first step to building trust and engagement. The trustworthiness piece of trauma informed approaches. We have to practice. We have to practice in being honest. Trish was honest in telling, honest and transparent in telling her story, in spite and in the midst of difficulties, and for her to be able to be in a position where trustworthiness has been built from her mentors and her coaches, such as Alice J, and folks that she um, is encountering, being honest as supporters and being trauma informed, being consistent, and being reliable, are huge trauma informed approaches that are very important. We got to follow through on our commitments. We got to explain the process clearly and early and often, and avoid making promises to survivors that you can't keep. And the purpose of it is to rebuild trust that has often been shattered by by exploitation, between relationships and systems and poverty and all the other systemic issues that we face. Why it matters? Because survivors may be so wary of institutions and individuals due to past um, betrayals, should I say. Trustworthiness lays the groundwork for everything, for effective support, healing, and personal and professional autonomy. Collaboration is another trauma informed approach. Work with survivors as partners in planning and in decision making. Respect their lived experiences and avoid hierarchy, positional frames, or paternalistic approaches. Treat them with dignity and respect. And the purpose to ensure that support is survivor led, as Trish led us through today's discussion. And make sure it's survivor centered and not imposing on survivors. Why it matters? Collaboration fosters mutual respect and reduces power imbalances, allowing survivors to be active, active agents in their own recovery. The cultural sensitivity aspect that Akila mentioned, recognize and honor survivors' cultural, religious, gender, and personal identities, and avoid assumptions and adapt to services, um, uh, for them to be inclusive and respectful of many diverse worldviews. The purpose of it is to create inclusive and affirming and brave spaces where survivors feel seen, heard, and respected. And why it matters, trauma is so pervasive. Trauma is experienced and expressed through the lens of culture, through the lens of societal issues. Cultural humility ensures that care is relevant, that it's not stigmatizing, and that it's accessible. So as we connect all of these dots, and it's many dots, so many things intersect that we may not have thought about, that we may not have considered, that we may have considered because we're coming from so many different places and spaces. So using trauma-informed approaches grounded in safety, trust, empowerment, collaboration, and cultural sensitivity is crucial. It's essential when supporting human trafficking survivors. And these principles not only foster healing, but also it kind of counteracts the very same dynamics of coercion, of powerlessness, of dehumanization, all of these things just talked about, that really define human trafficking. The approaches are crucial to helping survivors. The lessons and the learning does not stop when we conclude this presentation. Help survivors reclaim their agency. Help survivors reclaim their dignity. It is for their long-term health and well-being, as well as for our health and well-being as well. So as we move on to the resources, and I believe Akila and your organizers are going to share these resources. I'm going to have Tish go over this first set of resources that you see. If you want to just name them off, Tish.
Okay. Um, Before I begin naming them off, I know we're on a time frame. I just wanted to add to the previous slide. It was one lady that we have here with us, Miss Linda Bex. She said something that is so true in the chat. She said this could have been any one of us. And I think our society has created this uh, false narrative that it's a certain group of people, or no, this can be anybody. And I think we have to come from a space of identifying and looking for similarities when we are engaging with people that have been through traumatic experiences, or not even people that have been through traumatic experiences, but just with one another as a community, as a culture. Wherever we are is coming from a place of understanding rather than trying to be understood, and being open-minded about these kind of situations. So I did just want to mention that. Thank you, Ms. Linda Bex, for pointing that out. Um, so one of the resources obviously is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. It's 24/7 confidential support for victims, survivors, and concerned individuals. And the number is I also put it in the chat, into text, be free. Also, there is a website, humantraffickinghotline.org, Michigan Human Trafficking Task Force, who I just had the pleasure of going to Lansing with a couple weeks ago. Also, yeah, you can reach out to them. They're always looking to that they can. Alternative for Girls provides education into trafficking. Have a site as well, alternativeforgirls.org. Sanctum House, a safe home in Metro Detroit, offering comprehensive services to adult female survivors of human trafficking.org. And Michigan Abolitionist Project, or MAP, engages communities across Michigan to address human trafficking through education, collaboration, and action. Their website is up there as well, michiganabolitionistproject.org. And Avalon Healing Center, where I work, is 24/7 confidential. It offers a wide range of services to meet the needs of survivors in various ways. Their phone number is 313-474-SAFE, or you can go to the website avalonhealing.org. Okay, and then we also talked about um, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. There's so many different barriers that we have to make sure that we touch to for for survivors, period, not just of human trafficking, but survivors, period. Suicide Crisis Lifeline, Michigan Substance Abuse and Drug Addiction Hotline. Um, Sometimes that was my avenue or way out of me even finding out and gaining the information about being a survivor. A lot of um, victims or survivors don't even know that they are survivors. So, in drugs, a lot of the times are, not all the time, but a lot of the times are, the drug dependency is a way of manipulation to keep a person in servitude, keep a person in just stuck in that nasty cycle. So, and then there also, if you go to the Michigan.gov website, you can find local treatment centers in your area. If you put in the zip code or area code, you can locate the treatment centers in the area for someone that may need help with substance abuse treatment. So that's that.
Thank you, Tish. Wow, it's 2:40. We have the gift of time that we want to give back, but at this point, we're open for questions. Um, Again, thank you all.
Yes, thank you. Feel free to come off mute and ask any questions. And while we're taking questions, if you would like to use the QR code at the bottom of the screen, and I'll also put a link in the chat too. Say if you're on your phone, to scan that to tell us how we did with so letting us know through just a survey. And like I said, I'll put that in the chat as well. But please feel free to come off mute, put it in the chat if you have any questions for Tish, myself, or Barbara. Any questions?
I'm Theory Merriweather. I do have a question for Tish. I work directly with teenage girls a lot. And I think social media has kind of changed a lot of things and made it hard to kind of have like real understanding of what is truly going on in these girls' lives. Just any advice you have for people who do work with teenage girls who, may be at risk or maybe not at risk at this time, but just, anything that us as professionals who work directly with these youth could utilize to prevent these things and also help those who may be in these kind of situations.
Oh, that is a really good question. And actually, that's a little bit of what I do as well with the Survivor Council. We go out into the community, these girls groups, and we have these hard conversations about online safety and digital harm. And sometimes we get them involved. We get them involved, asking their own questions, answering their own questions. Um, for example, last year we created a skit for it was like a 90-second skit, like a reel for, how you see reels on Instagram and reels on Facebook, of these scenarios. Like we talked about the scenarios here in this forum. For example, one of actually the scenarios was one of the skits that we had. It talked about, what would you do as the 14-year-old girl has the conversation with somebody online through roadblocks, and we gave the girls an opportunity to help their classmate, or if the little girl is on a cheer team, what would you say to her? How would you get, we use words like a trusted adult to get them involved. Um, but it's with the youth, we absolutely have to make sure the conversation isn't just being had with them, but their parents, because some parents unfortunately aren't ready to have these conversations with their children, and they think that they are protecting them, but in actual reality, the more information that we have, all of us, the community, it takes a village to raise a child, but adults need villages too. That's what I think. And but just keeping dialogue open, and how informing these young girls, I think it's very important to start with small things like body image. Like, how do you feel about your body? There's positive and negative body image, or the conversation about self-esteem. And sometimes it takes us to be transparent about our own journeys to encourage them to want to have these conversations with us. You know, um, just being transparent. I have my daughter, she'll be 13, and I tell her, some days I don't feel pretty. Some days I struggle with how I feel about my body, or being confident, and the whole healing process, and being intentional about healing, being intentional and proactive when it comes to our self-esteem. I have a self-esteem app, that I go there and I read, like, how are you feeling about yourself today? So just keeping I know I went all lengthy, but keeping the doors of communication open and just being able to let them know that this is a safe space. This is a safe space. And I also, to the point where we showed them pictures of children that were trafficked and that have not been home. You know, not to scare them, but to scare them. You can't go around walking around the neighborhood with your face in your phone and your head not on the swivel. It's very important. That was one way that I got robbed the first time. I've been robbed twice. And just making sure that they know what to look out for when they're online. If it's somebody that's what they're posting, being very careful of the things that they post. Yes, we want them to be honest or social media is just like a blessing curse. But just making sure that they know that there's healthy content and there's unhealthy content that is cool. So hopefully I answered your question because I went all
No, that was
out.
I want to add to
awesome.
that. How to pronounce your- Are you okay? I just want to add to it. I mean, we can have this conversation multiple times. We also have to listen to our children as well. The communication issues, between parents and children is very challenging as well. One of the things that I've been so proud of in my tenure of 20 years at state, specifically with youth as it relates to conflict resolution, bullying. We know that bullying is social. Social media. That's how it starts as well, and then it just goes into so many other things related to this very conversation that we're having. Um, this is how our kids communicate. They don't know any other style of communication skills outside of the digital space because this, from a cultural standpoint, this is all that they know. They're growing up in this. So having these open and honest communication conversations when it comes to mentorship, when it comes to having active conversations with young people, along with their parents. Sometimes it's not even welcome by parents, depending on which space you are, whether you're in the school, as a teacher, as a neighbor. As a friend, as a community, it's really getting back to the beloved community in so many different ways that we really have to just uh, adopt or readopt again. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. We have about 12 minutes or so left. If there's any other questions that anyone would like to ask, feel free.
I, I just have a comment. Sandra Washington posted in the chat. Wonderful for being transparent with your children and seeing as though they will be well prepared for life's challenges. Uh, I want to underscore that 20 times as well. And my best friend's name is Sandra Washington. I don't know whether it's just a common name like my name, Barbara Jones. So that's why I always use the L. But I just had to say, relate to your comment, Sandra Washington, and that my best friend's name is Sandra Washington.
I always say that if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. You know, one of the things that with children, sometimes we treat them like they're not human beings. We treat them like of course, we want them to be children. Yes, we do. Absolutely.
That's
You know, one of the things is you want them to grow up too fast, but at the same time, they shouldn't be lied to either. You know, they shouldn't be put in a position to where they can't trust you, the number one trusted adult in their household. So, thank you for saying that. And then, like Barbara was saying about the community, um, I wish we could get back to, the neighbors being involved and everything being where we're getting closer as far as, the village being a village. Now everything is just so I don't know. We are isolating, even prior to COVID, we were isolating. Now everything is online and it's just so unfortunate. I would love for us to get back to the community, but we have to be the change that we want to see. That's why that's why I'm so transparent because I want my children to have a community. I have a community. I have women that I have to talk to on a regular basis just to get help with living this life I've never lived before. I've never lived clean, without drugs. So, and even people that didn't use drugs, we've never seen this day before. How do I go about navigating through the challenges that come along with this particular day, So, Barbara, that was huge. You mentioned that about the community. We need a community to get involved. It takes a village. We all need a village. Each individual person here, we need a village. Okay, I'm hoping that somebody will say something.
I I have a statement. So I'm Javon Reese. I'm the husband of Dr. Akila Reese. What up, Doc? And I work in space as a suicide prevention coordinator. But there was one part of your story, Tish, that you shared that was impactful and something I'll probably carry with me to my other trainings is that you said when you went for help and you started to talk about the life you were living, they said something back to you instead of help, and they said, well, this is the life you chose. To some effect, you said something like that. And I was like, that is so powerful how when a person does reach out for help or we start to see signs that they need help, we blame their circumstance or situation on not helping them. And then the other part that you shared was after you've gone through, your steps to find recovery to continue healing, you said something to the effect of now they love me. So they didn't love me while I was going through my things when I needed someone to reach out, someone to love. But after I recovered, after I found some foundation, some stabilization, now people are enjoying me. And I feel like they get to go backwards. That's Gian in the back. So I thought those things were super powerful, even in what I do when I talk about suicide prevention or doing things in the community around that subject, it's the same way of embracing people where they are and leaving, all the judgment. And culturally, it's a thing that you kind of talk about, but we do. We hold those judgments based how people present themselves, how what people are doing, not knowing that sometimes out of a person's circumstance or decision to be in a situation that they are in, but if they're looking for help, we need to meet them where they are and actually provide the help and hold all the comments of why you doing and see you here now. How can I help? So I thought that was very powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to piggyback on that. I couldn't pull it up quick enough, but this is Felicia. I'm a Delta, but I read this. It was a documentary, Saving Nell, and this just really did. It exemplified my practice. The question is, it's not what's wrong with you, but it's what happened to you, and that is my mantra.
Justice practices, and we don't use the language. of what's wrong with you. Um, and we don't even say what happened to you, what happened at that, and just leave it at that. So thank you for bringing that to this space. That is so powerful and so important.
Oh, thank you. And it is definitely that is starting the healing process right there. It's like they can take a deep breath, like, oh my God, you get it.
Healing, restoration, reconciliation, all of that. So, yes, thank you.
Hi, this is Sandra Washington. Can you hear me? Yeah, I just wanted Tish to know that the village hasn't left. It's just a new type of village, in a sense that I'm like you as far as being transparent with all my kids that are all adult professionals now. But my father was a police officer. I have a criminal justice background, and I told him everything. And as a result, their friends would come to me and want to know about certain things, even the ones now that are in their 30s, almost 40. They come to you for advice because their parents weren't transparent with them. So your village, you are your village. And so you have your children, but you're going to get other children too that you're going to be helping a lot. And so I just want to say, I think you're wonderful, and keep doing what you're doing. God bless you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate. Thank you for the feedback. I need to hear that. This was amazing. This was amazing. Um, yeah, this is awesome.
Tish, I'm sorry. My name is Erica Kelly. I'm part of the Pontiac Alumni Chapter. My question to you is, how did you forgive yourself? One of the things that I find is, and sometimes I work with a large foster care population, and the parents have so much guilt about, and I know it's a little bit different circumstance, but they have a lot of guilt about leaving their children or whatever the circumstance was. What for you gave you the grace enough to forgive yourself, and what tips would you give others in forgiving themselves for their situation?
Oh, that is a good question. Um, so with this, while I was in treatment, being honest with yourself, number one, is very important. Played an intricate part in my in still in I'm still healing, in this healing journey. But forgiving myself when I surrendered, I remember the first day that I surrendered. When I surrendered, um, God had a lot to do with this. I gave him everything. The shame, the guilt. I just made each day, because it is a practice. This is something, forgiveness is a practice with yourself, with someone else. I was intentional about letting it all go. I made a decision that I wasn't going to carry it into if I'm allowed to see the next day, it can't come with me. But what really helped me forgive myself is who God told me I was. That I'm not a prostitute. I'm not promiscuous. I'm not all of these things society says that I am, or um or a drug addict, a crackhead, all these things that society wants you to identify with. I identify with what God said I was. So, and that helped. And that gave me a power or access to a power that I can't even explain. But being honest, number one, and then being not being afraid what other people thought. A lot of times we won't be honest with ourselves because of we're afraid of the perception that we're feeding other people, or they're what they try to tell us. So, and it's a daily journey. I have to forgive myself. Some days I'm like, yes, I am this warrior woman and I got it. And, I can do it. And this some days I'm like, I don't got it. Even being honest on those days, that's why I was talking about, we talked about the village, being honest with a member of your village and saying today, I think I need you to pour into me today because my cup a little empty, and then being transparent about, well, I had to learn the difference between when my cup is full and that being for me, and then the overflow being for everybody else. So I can't allow you to stick your hand in my cup, but I can allow you what overflows you can have. But if the overflow ain't there, we got to stop right there. So it was just setting boundaries and things like that. It took a lot of work, but I had to be honest. Writing helps. Writing is very important. That was a really good question. That was a good one.
I know, just looking at time, I know we're at 3:01. So thank you all so much. If you have to log off, go ahead. But if you have a like one or two things you want to say, you can. But I really, really, really want to thank Barbara and Tish for taking time out of your Saturday, because I know it is a Saturday, to come and speak with us, and Tish for sharing your story. I know a lot of people just looking at the chat of how great it was and how informative it was, and then Barbara just bringing all the knowledge that you have to the meeting too. So I want to say thank you so much to you both. I really appreciate it. All right.
Thank you all. You all
Thank
could have
you.
been doing anything else on a Saturday, but you all showed up and you were here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate everyone being here and God bless you all. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. All right. I don't think we have any other questions. So once again, thank you so much. And I will end the meeting. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thank you again. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. It was very good.
Thank you.
Oh, please.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you again, Barbara. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Do you want me to jump off? I didn't know
Okay.
whether we needed
Let me
to.
know when you got that done.
Yeah, I'll probably jump off too. Yeah.
Okay, then. Take
Okay.
care. We'll connect
Yes.
soon. I didn't
Yes.
know whether we were going to debrief, but we're good.